Now that we've seen how to pass information from the browser to the server using get variables, which are encoded in the URL itself, we're going to see how to do it using post variables. It works in much the same way, but post variables aren't encoded in the URL, so that makes them a little bit more secure, a bit more elegant, and you don't have to worry so much about the content of the variable. For example, if a variable has an AND symbol in it, then that can be problematic with the get string, but it won't with post. So let's see how post variables work. I'm going to keep our form from the previous video. And then all we need to do is change one attribute in our form tag, and that is to change the form method to post. You can see we've got two options there. Get is the default, so you don't need to add that, but post is what we're going to be using this time. So if we now run this without our tag, if I put in a number there, you'll see first off, there's nothing in the URL, so we're not putting our post variable in the URL. You'll also notice if you refresh, then you get this request, confirm the form submission. You've probably seen something like that in a website that you've used where you've refreshed the page after submitting some information. So what they're asking here is, do we want to submit that post variable again? And so if we say yes, then we do, but it's still not there. So how do we access it then? What we do is exactly the same as with the get variable, but we use $_post instead of $_get. So let's have a look, refresh, submit the form again, and you can see we've got the variable in exactly the same way. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Everything else works in exactly the same way as with get variables. So to get these into your head, as well as practice PHP arrays, loops, and if statements, I've got a little challenge for you. And that is, I'd like you to create a slightly expanded version of the script that we created a couple of videos ago, where the user enters their name and the computer checks to see if they know them. And if they do, then they say hello. If they don't, they say, I don't know you. So this time I want an array of usernames. You can have as many as you like. 3 or 4 is probably a good idea. And then I'd like the user to enter their name in a simple form like this, post it with a post variable, and then the code should check against the array of username. If it's on there, say hello. If it's not, then say I don't know you. Pretty simple, but it should give you a good opportunity to use pretty much everything that we've learned in this section so far. Go for it. All right, hope you managed that. Let's give it a shot then. So I'm going to start with the HTML form. So we'll create a form with a method of post. You can use capitals or small letters. Doesn't really matter. And then we'll ask, what is your name? Then we'll have our input with a type of text and a name of name. And then we'll have our submit button, so input with a type of submit, and value will just be submit. All right. I don't want to submit my form again because that was the previous form. There we go. Okay. So that's the HTML. Now for some PHP. So first of all, we'll check if there is a post variable at all. Because if there isn't, we don't want to do all of this and check it against the array, etc. But if there is, then we do want to check it. So let's create our array. You can imagine what my one's going to be. I'm very unoriginal. So we'll have Rob, Kirsten, Tommy, and Ralphie. So what we want to do is take the name variable that was passed to the post array and check it against each of these names. So a number of ways to do that, but my favorite way, as I've mentioned, to loop through an array is using a for each loop. So we use for each, and we want family as, and before we had key, arrow, value. If we do that, that's absolutely fine, but we don't actually care about the key this time because I only care about the values. So as a slight shortcut, we can just do family as value, and then that will ignore the keys and just give us the values, which is fine because the value is all we care about here anyway. And then what we want to do is check to see if the value is equal to, remember double equals for a checking, and post name. Name is the name of the variable. And here I'm going to use a similar solution to what we did in the isItPrime script in the previous video, that I'm going to set isKnown to be initially false, and then if the value is equal to the name, then we'll update isKnown to be true. All looking good so far. And then when we've gone through that loop, which is here, then we just check to see if isKnown, then we can echo hi there, and then the name. I'll put a friendly exclamation mark at the end there. And if they're not, so if we don't know them, we'll just say, I don't know you. All right, so pretty straightforward, but it does use loops, if statements, post variables and arrays, and variables indeed. So let's take a look, just make sure it all works. So if I put Rob in there, hey, that's looking good. If I put Sarah, then we get I don't know you. And just to check, Ralphie is known. Wonderful. So I hope you managed to do that. It wasn't too tricky. In the next video, we're going to look at a very common function for PHP scripts, and that is sending email. And that's in preparation for our mini project of creating a contact form. See you then.